a special live edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and we have an extremely special show today for you, in so much as we are pleased to welcome the man, the legendary WWF, WCW, and many points in between talent, Jacques Rougeau. But before we get to Jacques and his exciting developments in terms of his wrestling academy and other topics, I must throw to the man, Mr. Cheap Heat himself, Maurice. Gentlemen, welcome and hello.
Thanks very much, Jack, and also pleased to have Jack with two Jacks here tonight now, so this could get a bit confusing, but we'll start with Mr. Rougeau. And I just want to know just a little bit about the Wrestling Academy and what you've got going on. I know you got some exciting things in the pipeline at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me on board here. You know, it's funny. I always associate names with things, and I think of Maurice there. I'm thinking of, I can't help but think of Maurice there, Beauty and the Beast there, the good old Maurice that was in there. And so I hope you're not like him. But anyway, and then I looked at your name. I said, I hope I don't get killed by Jack. But anyway, so I hope you take it easy on me, Jack, today. And but thank you for having me on board. Yeah, it's been a very exciting year. Last year, actually, you know, people like to talk about the future. We'll get there, but it was a magnificent year for me, 2023. So looking forward to talk with you guys today.
So let's rewind 2023 then for yourself before we look forward into 2024. Can you just explain to the fans what you've been up to with the school and the academy?
Well, you know, Wrestling Academy is a project that I started 2 years ago with my girlfriend, and it all came about a Quebec show that was called Star Academy, which they would that went on like 20 years ago. It's been going on, and it's like they recruit all kinds of singers from across Quebec. And they go through a process of elimination, and then finally, at the end, the winner would go ahead and sing at the Bell Center in front of 20,000 people with Celine Dion. You know, so that was the winner of the contest. And during pandemic, then I started a podcast with one of my sons, and I started having guests from singers to comedians to hockey players to GSP, and to go on and on. And I had this girl called Marie-Hélène Thibert who was part of that Star Academy, and she started talking about her adventure, you know, through the thing of the singing contest and everything. And then when she left, I looked at my girlfriend and I said, man, wouldn't that be fun if we did something like that, a Star Academy, but wrestling, like, you know, have all the wrestlers come from Canada, from Vancouver all the way to PWI and then to PEI and West Coast to East Coast, and bring them all in and have an elimination. And so we put the idea together, and it's just been an amazing process since then. Getting some help from QT Marshall in Atlanta, Georgia, with Billy Gunn and Cody Rhodes, who have the Nightmare Factory, which my winners would also win a prize money. The first year there was 4 winners of $5,000 each, and then they would go spend 3 months at the Nightmare Factory trained by those guys, you know, which was amazing. And then they'd have the opportunity to wrestle for AEW, and when they'd come to Canada, you know, for the big events as a dark match and stuff like that. There was even figurines made for the winners, you know, like a toy company made figurines for them. So what an exciting process for them. And then the second year, which was this year that just passed, then we had 3 winners of $10,000. So we had more sponsors. So $10,000 is what I did at WrestleMania for my payoff, you know. So I'm going like, hey, you know, this is a hell of a deal. And plus getting all the exposure, and then again going to the Nightmare Factory. As a matter of fact, I got a call from Sean Moore today, who was one of our winners of this year, who just started today at the Nightmare Factory, his training for 3 months. And so it's been a very, very exciting process. And now we're going into 2024. It's amazing because we have 4 winners this year of $10,000. And we also have we're in the works of making it happen. I'm just waiting for a final confirmation. But our winners this year will be going to spend 1 week with the Big Lucha and the Bandido school in Mexico. You know, so they're gonna go do some lucha libre for a week there, and go with the masks and the different kind of style of wrestling in Mexico. Because I wrestled there when I was younger in my career, and what a wake-up call when I got there. It was like a complete different wrestling. So that's going to be an opportunity for the winners this year, which is going to be absolutely amazing. $10,000 on a trip to Mexico to work out for a week and then wrestle in the arena of Mexico. What an amazing thing. So that was pretty much what happened the last year. But many other good things happened to me this year that just passed. I got to tell you, Project X Wrestling out of Sudbury, Ontario, they started a new Hall of Fame this year for wrestling, and I was the first inductee as a Hall of Famer, the first one in. And Lord knows there's a lot better wrestlers than me, but I was so happy that they chose me and for their first inductee, and now I could say I'm a Hall of Famer, you know. And although I'm not in the WWE Hall of Famer, not yet, and hope to be soon. And but it's nice to have your own country recognize you for being in the Hall of Fame. And so that was amazing things that happened to me. Got a lot of things planned for this year also, which is fun. Seems like good things are happening to me now. I've been invited this week to a golf tournament in PEI, Prince Edward Islands, with all kinds of celebrities like GSP, Chris Nyland, Larry Robinson, big hockey players, different disciplines. Of Daryl Sittler is going to be there. I'm thinking of all the names, and I was just invited this week, and I was asking myself, it's amazing, you know, why did they call me? It's just amazing, you know, that my name is circulating on all kinds of things. And so a lot of good things are happening. I'm looking down here at and you know, going back to Wrestling Academy too, it was fun last year, the year that just passed. Is my brother Raymond, the fabulous Rougeau brothers. You know, my brother Raymond, who was a judge this year at Wrestling Academy and also a commentator. He liked it so much he came back as a commentator, you know, for another show, and he's going to be with us this year again. We're also going to have Gino Brito. I don't know if that rings a bell to you guys. You know, Gino Brito, he must be about 80 years old now, but he's still very lucid. And he's going to be coming also as a judge this year. So to bring back some good memories for the older fans there. So we got a great lineup this year set up. It's starting only in September of 2024. And so we have plenty of time to put this together. Very importantly, to send people on wrestling-academy.ca. That's the official website. And you will see on that website, you will see all of the participants of this year. You're going to see the women. That's incredible. The men, and you go click on there, you go push on their pictures, and then you'll see a video of them, and you'll see them talk. You'll see the best moves they have and everything preparing for this event. And on the website is just absolutely amazing. If you've been a wrestling fan or you are a wrestling fan, wrestling-academy.ca is a date for you guys, because you'll see all the talent that has endorsed this product. You'll see some words coming from Undertaker, from Bret Hart, from Ric Flair, from Ronnie Garvin, from Ricky Steamboat. It goes on and on the list. Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Everybody has encouraged me in this tournament. It's now considered the biggest contest around the globe right now, as far as 4 winners of $10,000 plus the opportunities that they're getting. So it's been it's a great year. I got 2 Comic-Cons coming up too in March and April. I got 2 big ones, major ones. Let me see. I took the notes. I got in Philadelphia on April 6th. I'm at WrestleCon, and I can't tell you how many stars that are there. I saw the list, and I'm saying, holy mackerel. Like, that's just incredible that they asked me to be there. That's awesome. And then on March 9th, I'm also at the Reunion 3, which is in Chillicothe, Ohio, which is another one that I'm booked. I got a few that I'm working on. So my name is moving around now. It's fun. I'm living my passion, and I'm the best thing of all this is giving the opportunity to the Canadian talent to be recognized and to have a chance to make it to the big leagues one day.
Jacques, for fans that aren't familiar with your previous incarnations of the Academy, can you tell us how the tournament works and all the intricacies to get to a winner?
Amazing. Thank you for asking me. Because it is complicated. You know, it's like everybody knows that when you put a match together, it's choreographed. So how can you have winners that go to the next round? So this is how it's done. I get we pick the names out of a bowl, and a guy could be from Vancouver, another one from Ontario, and then I get them on Zoom, and like we are now, and then we start We flip a coin, heads or tails, to see who's going to win the match, who's going to lose it. That's not important. It has nothing to do. It's not relevant. So it's like I help them I let these guys talk. I put my 2 cents in. I try to make sure that everybody has their time to shine, to show the judges what they can do, have the right time also to shine and to make the other one look good and to do their best moves. And then what happens is they have their match live with the judges around the ring, and that's all choreographed. But once the match is done with, then they stand up in the middle of the ring, and then we go with the judges, which last year we had a bunch of nice guests as judges, and next year it's going to be awesome. I know that Double J Jeff Jarrett's coming, Jimmy Hart's coming to be a judge. We got a lot, and I got a lot more in mind that I'm going to fly into Montreal to be judges by the ring. So what happens is the match finishes, so they're happy, they had a great match, and they're all good matches, to be honest with you, because when they put their input together, and I put my 45 years of experience on top of it, so it makes it a really good match that I get out of everybody. So when the matches, makes it hard for the judges because the talent is so good, and we're taking the best talent from Canada. We got to keep in mind we had over 70 inscriptions, and we're only keeping like 34. So we have plenty of talent, the great talent. So when the match finishes, they stand in the middle of the ring, and then let's say my brother Raymond says, "Okay, I really liked your interview you did before the match," because they do a live interview before the match. So we want to see if they know how to talk under pressure in front of the people, how they do a promo live. And then my brother will say something like, "Well, you, John, I really liked your gear, your wrestling gear. I think you put a lot of pride in what you're wearing, and that brings a lot." And then another one would come up and say, "I really like your ability in the ring. Your ability counts a lot in the ring. And then, but I liked your charisma. You have a lot of charisma, a lot of attachment to the crowd. You got the crowd going. So this time for this match, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm voting for you." So we have 3 judges like that votes and gives their opinion after the match when they're standing right there, and we just undress them in front of everybody and just tell them the good and the bad things they did. And then we have one principal judge, which was QT Marshall in the last years, and so he's there, and he's going to go ahead and take what we say, and he's going to take what he saw, and then he's going to decide who's going to pass to the next round, going to the semifinals. So it's so the fun about it is as much as us, the judges, as much as the fans, as much as the wrestlers, we don't know what's going to happen. So we're standing there, and we're all like, waiting to have the decision of the judge. It's a very exciting moment. So it's reality. It's a TV reality show. So that what makes it very, very impressive and very fun to see how all the talent deal with that, because the talent want to help each other out. I make sure that there's harmony in this and that we all make ourselves look good. But I'm sure that inside of them, they have a little selfishness there. They have a little jealousy. They have a little they're a little nervous, and so it's an amazing feeling to see when the decision comes down and the final judge, and then to see the great sportsmanship that the Canadians have. Just the winner just falls down to his knees crying, and the loser just picks the winner up and shakes his hand and gives him a hug and say congratulations. And so it's a great thing.
Yeah, I've just got a 2-part question on that, Jack. How do you recruit the talent, or is there an application process for people? And secondly, are you guys going to be filming this for TV?
Oh, that's a good question. Now you're talking about something that I can't talk about right now, but I'm going to tell you something. I've been working on getting it on TV. I've been working on it very much, and we have a very important meeting coming up this week. So hopefully things will turn out to the best. I know that the interest is growing tremendously. The concept is unique, and so we have a couple of production people that are very interested in us. So hopefully we'll have some great news to announce soon. And what was the first part of the question? Oh yeah, how do we recruit? Yeah, you got to go with one question at a time with me. I'm getting old. So how do we recruit? Well, we ask all the federations across Canada to send me a 30-second video and to give me like or 45-second video to give me like 20-30 seconds of action highlights in the ring, and then to personalize it for 15 seconds, like to say example like Jacques Rougeau Wrestling Academy, I'm coming into Montreal, I'm going to prove I'm the best. And they do a little promo. So I see what kind of charisma they have a little bit in that 15-second promo. I see the highlights, 30 seconds, and then we just go down all the inscriptions one by one, and that's why I tell all the talent when I talk to them before they send the video, I said, listen, you really got to make your video look good, because it's got to be what we say in French, a tape à l'œil. It's got to be something that hits the eye. Like, you know, if I see your video, you got to grab me with something. You got to make me want to have you. So make sure that those moves, the highlights are quick, 5-6 seconds highlights. Don't, in other words, if you're going to put a highlight when you're coming off the top rope, well, don't show me when you're hitting the ropes or when you're getting up and climbing up the ropes and then show me the move. Just show me the move and then show me another move and then show me you talking to the people. Show me smiling. Show me taking a bump. Show me, but just make sure that your 30, 45-second video is like. And so when we look at the videos, I just sit down and I gather around with my girlfriend, and we sit down, and last year with QT Marshall, and we just look at the videos, and then we watch a video, and then we look at each other, and yep, we'll keep him. Nope, not him. Yeah, so it's just as simple as that. And it's like so we just choose them off whatever they bring to us. If they appeal, the more they're appealing, the more they have a chance to stay in the competition.
If I could ask you a question about your brother and the fabulous Rougeaus, one of the undoubtedly, and you touched upon this earlier, there's quite a movement to have you inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, but I think one of the most lasting aspects of one of your runs in the WWF was the heel turn and that nuclear heat that you generated, incredible by any era standards. Was the genesis for that heel turn as a result of Vince McMahon, or how did that come about?
The Rougeau brothers, that came into 1986. 86 we started, and 86, 87 we worked so hard, Raymond and I, and as baby faces, but they just seemed like we didn't get over like they wanted us to, because we have to have the fact that the Americans, they like American heroes. And, you know, it's like, and there was just something about me and Raymond not getting over as much as they would want as baby faces. So Vince had brought us into a meeting one time, and he told us, guys, you know, we've been working 2 years together, and I have an idea. So then he came up with the idea that we move to Memphis. We get Jimmy Hart as our manager. We become the fabulous Rougeau brothers. We get the song All American Boys that we sang with Jimmy Hart there. That was absolutely, it was a hit. It's amazing, that song, how far it went. And then still today it's playing. When I go to Comic-Cons, people get in line and we don't like heavy metal. We don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey! And then people are singing that we're all American. And it's funny how that song stuck to people. And so Vince initiated that turn. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to us, because, you know, and I remember my father. It was funny because my father had told me when I was very young, at a young age, I was very cocky when I was young. You know, I was a go-getter, and I was like, you know, I'm going to make it to the top no matter what it takes. And I pushed my way up. And I told my dad after like 3 years, maybe, you know, I thought I was really good. And I told my dad, I said, you know, hey, I'm getting pretty good now, you know. And my father looked at me and he told me, he says, you know what? He says, there's two things that you'll know when you become good. The first thing is it takes 5 years. 5 years to become a really good worker. And then the second thing is you'll never be a good worker until you work heel. Like, you know, so you have both sides of the story, because, you know, we got to remember, guys, I don't know if I'm sure you're aware of this, but a lot of fans are not aware of this, but all the way up to the 90s, to the 80s, I'm sorry, like in the 70s when I started in the 80s, and we'd get in the ring and the heels would call the match. Like the whole match was dictated by the heels. We'd just go in there, baby faces, and listen. And then when all the big excuse my language, but in those days you had a lot of overweight heels, fat heels, and they'd come in and everybody would treat them as beer drinkers, and they looked like guys, and they were like idiots, and the baby faces were the heroes, but the truth is the heels were the smart ones. They were the ones calling all the matches. They were the ones that were really dictating when they'd control the crowd and everything. So that was all the way up to the early 80s that it was like that. Before went to, so my father was right, and then I realized when we turned heel, Raymond and I, and we became the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. It was we were every team, every person has something that's going to make them pull out of the lot, like come out of the lot, of just make them different. And one of the things that Raymond and I, we just specialized on was like cheating behind the referee's back, where everything we did was so sneaky. Every time the referee would look at us, we'd be like clean cut guys, they're respecting the rules. But as soon as they tune her, and we'd have ways of going to make the other babyface come in and interfere, where the referee would go with him, and then we'd cheat behind his back. And when the referee would turn around, we'd be clean, changed, did the wrong guys in the ring and everything. And we'd look at the people like, hey, we tagged, didn't we? And then the people get pissed off big time because they knew that the referee didn't see it. So what it would be like in those days, where we wouldn't put the heat on the referee. So where everybody would say, you dumb, stupid referee, because we were so fast and so quick behind the referee's back, people didn't blame the referee. They just blamed us for being no good, for being so. So that's the thing that Jimmy Hart says today, even when we'll meet him. He says, out of all the teams I've had, you guys are the best team that knew how to get heat behind the referee's back. And I think that helped us tremendously as the Fabulous Rougeau brothers.
Who came up with the idea for the classic minuscule little American flags?
That was pretty much Vince, I think, and Vince. But at the stage, of there, I think that we could have done it too. Jimmy Hart could have done it, because now the initial turn was Vince, but then after that, we loved the gimmick so much that we were all putting ideas and putting some like the suits and the capes and the everything that came to song. It's actually Jimmy Hart that came up with the idea of doing us a song, and so I think it was a teamwork. It was at that point in time, like everybody was putting their 2 cents in and making it the best thing possible, and we had so much chemistry between Jimmy Hart and us. It was like amazing, and that's why. One of the major reasons that when I came back as the Mountie, there was 2 conditions I told Vince McMahon, and one of them was that I have Jimmy Hart as my manager, and the other one was that I brought my shock stick with me, because I wanted to bring that shock stick. That was my gimmick, my idea. But the other thing is I want to have Jimmy Hart, because you guys, I don't know if you know this, I may repeat myself, you may have heard me say this before, but there's not a better manager in the whole world than Jimmy Hart. And I could back my words up. A lot of people say things, and yeah, there's Bobby Heenan, and there's Slick, and there's this, Mr. Fuji. There's a bunch of them. But what made Jimmy Hart, for me, the best manager of all times is, contrary to all the other managers, when they get on the microphone to start a promo or something, where the other managers go and say, well, you know what? I got the brains, and I'm this, and I'm that, and I'm smart. Jimmy Hart would never take no appreciation for himself at all. He'd always come on there and said, hey, let me tell you something about my man. Let me tell you something about my man. My man is the fastest. My man is the smartest. He would never talk about himself. And by the time we got to start talking on the interview, he built us up so huge and so important, so big, that our confidence was just flowing. And so Jimmy Hart would come in, and I wouldn't be with him for more than a week, and he'd come in with a suit with all my designs on a suit. Like, he'd make a suits that would go for his men. He would make the music for his talent. He would be the guy I've never seen a guy more punctual than Jimmy Hart. We had to go do a TV show, a radio show. We had to be for TVs, for promos. We had to be there at 2:00. Jimmy Hart was there at 1:00. He was there 1 hour before, just like Raymond and I. We've always been punctual, and punctuality and straight. If I mean straight, like with all your brain, so Jimmy Hart, for me, is the goat of wrestling, and no one you could say what you want, and not because he was my manager twice for 4 years altogether, but just because he's such a professional. He's 80 years old today. I meet him in Comic Cons again. We do things together. He has not changed a bit. He comes in there, talk to him for a second. Hey, Jimmy Hart, you're the greatest. Oh, well, let me tell you something. It's all because of the Hart Foundation, and it's because of the Rougeau brothers, and it's because of he's always putting the glory and the reasons why he was so big to the people that surrounded him, instead of taking what he should do for himself. That's why I do it so much, because he never did it for himself.
Yeah, he sounds like a guy that's came out of the business for so long somehow and has no ego attached as well, which is cool.
He's amazing. So much in demand. When we go to Comic Cons, he's got one of the biggest lines every time. People just like to come see Jimmy Hart.
Yeah. You touched on it earlier about the WWE Hall of Fame. How much would that mean for you if that was to happen?
Well, to a certain point, it used to mean more. Now it means less to me, because the Canadian Hall of Fame, who inducted me this year, it kind of took a lot of weight off my shoulders, because, humbly talking, it's something hard for me to do, but humbly talking, I should have been there a long time ago with Raymond or as the Mountie, because everybody that I've worked with, angles like the Big Boss Man, the Hart Foundation, Valentine Beefcake, everybody that I worked with in the Tito Santana that I did angles with, Bret Hart and singles, and they're all there. And I always said to myself during all those years that it was hurting me not being chosen because of a personal issue I had with Vince McMahon, a fallout I had with him for all these years, that I always said to myself, we shouldn't put people in the Hall of Fame for how much we like them, but we should put them in for what they've done to the business or what they've accomplished. And so it's been something that but now, to be honest with you, I look back and I say it would be amazing to be there, but I could live with myself now, just being a Canadian Hall of Famer, and knowing that when you look at people on the web and you see on the how can I say that, they're on the social medias. If you go read, should the Rougeau be in the Hall of Fame, or should the Rougeaus be, or should the Mountie be in there? Everybody, it's unanimous. Out of 10 people, there's 9 that said it should have been done a long time ago. It should have been. So I'm not only thinking about us. I'm thinking about Rick Martel. I'm thinking about there's some guys there's something about these French people that they don't like or something. But how can you not put Rick Martel in there? As another guy like that. He's done so much for the business. And I'm thinking so I don't take it as personally anymore. But it would be a great thing. It would be a nice honor to be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
One of the mega superstars of all time that endorsed you for the Hall of Fame is Hulk Hogan. And a fan is asking about your in-ring history with Hulk Hogan, but I wanted to ask you specifically about how you're one of the few to hold a clean singles victory over Hogan when he was WCW World Heavyweight Champion in that awesome match in the Molson Center in Montreal. How did that come about, Jacques?
There's a lot of sides to that story, but if you want mine, I'll just say because I don't know what's in Hulk's head, but from input I got and the feeling I got was it was an amazing moment, of course, being the only Canadian to get a clean pinfall on Hulk in front of my fans. But the battle it was that night, also to go into the ring as a babyface, and him as NWO, biggest heel in the world at the point, and for him to be cheered by 99% of the people and me to be booed by 99% of my own people, that was something to overcome that night because I didn't expect that one. When I got into the ring, people were booing me, I was going like, uh-oh, well, I didn't figure this one out, and I had to work hard in the ring and keeping the rules, and then he kept cheating, and finally I overcame the 60-40 where I got the people back behind me. But it was amazing. I think that Hulk did that there's 2 reasons I think he did that. My personal opinion on that. The first one is the respect he had for the Rougeau family, the four generations of the Rougeau family. I think also that I worked for so many years. I worked for 10 years with Hulk, you know, on different shows around the world, and many times I was an opening match or with the Hearts and whatever, or even just before the intermission to start the second part of the show, and we always and I'll never forget Hulk when he came and told me one time. He says, you know, you guys, you know, it's so fun when I look at the card and I see that you guys are on the opening card. You know, it's like, because people always think that the main event is the most important match of the evening, but the most important match of the evening is the first one, because if you don't insult people's intelligence and you get them going right off the bat, you really get them off their seats, then the rest of the night just goes like that. And Hulk had this great appreciation for the work we did, Raymond and I, and for him before the shows. And so I think that was gratitude. But me personally, I think it's because what happened with the British Bulldogs, the feud we had, and the fact that I did a comeback on Dynamite Kid when everybody thought I was down and out. I got beat up in the dressing room and I was bullied by him. And I'm not a fighter in real life. That's the funniest part. Is like my brother Raymond's a tough guy. my dad's a tough guy. I'm an artiste. I just go in there and play the role. But so it was a very, very hard time in my life to get bullied like that and to overcome it and to do what I had to do to get that roll of quarters and do what I had to do. And it was like it was the worst time of my life, the worst week of my life, from the time I got beat up to the time the next week I had to do my comeback to save the Rougeau's image, the Rougeau's name, to save my face. And you know, and I couldn't eat that week. I was eating, I was puking right after. I was so nervous. I was so afraid too, because I was doing something that I wasn't comfortable with, not at all, and not familiar with. And so I think I did it for my dad. You know, I just did it for my dad, because when I got beat up in Miami, I got beat up when my father was assisting in front of 20,000 people in Miami convention, where my father was a snowbird. So we went to Miami to wrestle that night, and my father was in the stands when he saw me come out with my face all messed up before my match. And then I didn't talk to him the time I went back to the home to his house, and the next day I took a flight to Chicago. I never spoke one time. I was like in a serious depression. I was gone. I was in bad shape, and but my father and the Rougeau name was such a great name in wrestling that I didn't want to just quit the business, go home with my tail between my legs, and that was the end of the Rougeaus, you know, and the Bulldogs win for something that they didn't deserve to win, because I didn't deserve that beating. And so I had so for me to stand up like that and do what I had to do, I know for a fact. I know over the years, I've heard about it, that Hulk's friends, he had a lot of friends that got bullied. And I also heard that Hulk also was afraid, because Hulk was the big kingpin. He was the top guy, so they never messed with him. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't afraid that it would start or it would happen. You know, so when I stood up for myself, and then they quit the business right after, when he took the beating, 2 weeks later, he quit the business, the Dynamite Kid. He just pulled out of WWF and never made a comeback. I think I initiated something in Hulk that he really liked me. Like, you know, he was happy that I stood up for myself. And so when he came to Montreal and wrestled me, you know, he just I think that's one of the reasons why he gave me that most wonderful day of my life, you know, just to beat Hulk Hogan. It's like I use that everywhere I go now. Like, you know, I go in speeches, I do conferences. Do you know I'm the only Canadian to beat Hulk Hogan? I use that everywhere. So it's like, so he I don't know if he realizes what he gave me, but that's that's the greatest thing, one of the greatest things for me.
Yeah. To lighten the mood a little bit, I heard a great story, and you might rehash it there if you want, about doing the original promos for the Mountie. I heard a story that you told about somebody. It was a couple arriving when you were with the horse, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, say that again. Now I'm trying to understand your question.
Yeah, when you were recording the promos for the Mountie with the horse, the original one.
Oh yeah, with the horse. I thought you said with the heart. No, with the horse. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah. I'll tell you, that was a classic. When we first start doing this new character, the Mountie, we had at the time we had vignettes. So they'd put the vignettes on TV, like little promos before you come in the territory with your character. They would introduce you like worldwide. Just say this, hey, you know me. You'd have Jesse the Body Ventura by the ringside with Mean Gene, and they'd say, hey, you know Mean Gene coming to the WWF soon is the Mountie from Canada, and then they'd show a little promo. And so they came to film a couple of promos with the horse. And so it was amazing. I'm in a park here in Montebello, not too far from my home, so we got this guy in his car with his girlfriend that pulls up beside me. I'm on the horse. I'm sitting on the horse there in the middle of the park, and this guy, there's two Americans actually that they're lost, and they don't know how to find their way back to the border. So he pulls up beside me and he puts his window down and he says, excuse me, officer. And I look down to him and I say, I'm not an officer, I'm the Mountie. So the guy looks at me like this, like, holy shit. He looks at his girlfriend like, holy shit, we got a winner here. So then he looks up to me, he says, excuse me, Mr. Mountie. He says, can you tell me how to get back to the USA? We're lost. So I'm looking at him from my horse. So I get off my horse real slowly. He's in the car looking through his window, and I tell him, I said, come here. So the guy looks at his girlfriend, and his girlfriend says, go on, get out. So the guy gets out. He was afraid of me. So I bring him to the front of my horse. And when I get to the front of my horse, I take the head of my horse like this in my hand, and I put the head up. I said, you see this part of my horse? It always points to Canada. Now come here. And then I bring him in the back of the horse, and I lift the tail of the horse, and you can see the horse's arse right in the camera. And I tell him, I say, you see this part of the horse? It always points to the United States. And then so the guy just looks at me, and he jumps in his car, and he just spins his wheels away, and he leaves. So I got to tell you, this is funny because my first 3 towns I started, when I went as the Mountie, there were it was like Nassau Coliseum. It was Philadelphia Spectrum and the Boston Gardens, like 3 of the wildest fans, the more patriotic fans. And I'll tell you, they didn't take my joke very funny. I was throwing rocks coming into the buildings, and stuff like that. And I had to, for the first month, I had many times I had police escorts bring me in and out of the building because, they were afraid for my security. And so I guess the Mountie gimmick got over pretty good.
That's a great story.
The Mountie always gets his man. Yeah, it was funny. Had some good times with Big Boss Man too. That jailhouse match was absolutely amazing. That whole build up for a year of me beating all the baby faces and him beating all the heels, and then coming to the main event, co-main event with Hulk at SummerSlam at the Madison Square Gardens, where they put me in that paddy wagon and they sent me to spend the night in jail. I hear so much about it, even 30 years later, it's people come up to me and they, how was the leather with the leather guy there? Because there was a guy with leather that was in my cell with me at the end, and he was gay. So it was like, how was that night, And so people really enjoyed that feud we had, me and Bossman.
Is it more of has it been enhanced over time, the issues that Titan Sports had with the RCMP over the gimmick? Is it true that there was a cease and desist letter and all that legal jazz issued?
Yeah. My gimmick would have lasted a lot longer. I was the shortest lived Intercontinental Champion. I won it from Bret the Hitman Hart. Then 3 days later, I lost it to Piper. but it's funny. But the Mountie gimmick was so hot that the real Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they took an injunction against WWF. They said, we don't want to see that character on TV anymore. And so they banned me from TV. But in those days, what they didn't realize is all the TV tapings that we were doing, like in the States or everywhere, they only do 1 TV tapings, and they send that TV out to different countries all around the world. So by not being allowed to wrestle as the Mountie, I couldn't do tapings, where I had to cut my sleeves off, and I had to, when I come to Canada, I was Jacques Rougeau. It wasn't the Mountie anymore. And so they really hurt me, the Mounties. And it's funny because over the years, when I see a Mountie, they love all the Mounties. They love me to death. it's the high office that didn't like me, but the Mounties, they were so proud. They loved the Mountie, boy, they were happy. And it's funny because I always finished by telling them, you know, hey, you should tell your boss there, the big top Mountie, to get off his high horse there, you know, like it was an expression, but get off his high horse, like, hey, this is only a character. Like so many times you see in movies where there's dirty cops and there's you know, it's entertainment. That's all it is, you know. So they shouldn't have took it so personally. But the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had a very, very big self-esteem of themselves. They thought they were really over and top of everything in the law, but over the years they got cooled down with a few bad things that happened with the Mounties there, but they didn't look so good. So I think if it would have come out now, it wouldn't be so bad. You know, they're not so perfect anymore with their image. But in those days, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were just like, you know, we have an image and nobody's going to touch it. And you know, it's funny because I was in Winnipeg working this summer for a federation down there, and I went to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police headquarters, and it was so funny because I wanted to buy myself some boots that I had there before, you know, and my shirt, you know, a shirt, because I do Comic Cons and my shirts are getting old. I still have them. I still have my coat, but it's a little torn up there a bit. And you know, you're not allowed to buy any gear of the Mounties. You can't buy anything like in their suits. It's like, okay, you know, I came in there and I went to the shop and everything and said, no, you could look, but you can't buy. And I said, what do you mean I can't buy? No, you're not allowed to buy. You're not allowed. They don't sell the Mountie gear or the Mountie suits. It's like, and I'm saying to myself, you know, oh well.
It's too bad they took that approach, because I think your character did more for recruitment than anybody, and really put the Mounties over by being in such a prominent, strong role. But they did. You're right. The sense of humor wasn't there back in the day.
no, and it's funny because it seemed like Vince was a little pissed off at that, because I remember going to, I think it was London, where they have the palace there, where they have the soldiers in front of the palace that can't smile or can't. Is that in
Buckingham
London?
Palace.
Yeah, Buckingham Palace. So we went to film a segment there where I'm dressed up as the Mountie, and I go right in front of them, and me and Jimmy Hart, and we're trying to make them smile or something, you know. But that was funny. I enjoyed that very much, and it's so funny because there's I can't remember what the deal was. Oh yeah, I was chasing a bird. I was chasing a bird with my stick there, you know, and right in front of the Mountie. Well, not the Mountie, but however they call them there at the palace. What do they call those guys? They're not Mounties. They're
I can't remember what their name is, but yeah, I know the guy.
But
Palace
anyway,
guards, I think.
So anyway, so I was running after a bird with my zap stick in front of them, and they wouldn't even move. Like they wouldn't even save the bird. Anyway, so but that was funny. I enjoyed that very much, actually.
Was that around the time of SummerSlam '92? Because I know you worked at that in a dark match. That
Yes,
in Wembley.
it had to be 91, 92, because that's the only time the Mountie existed, in 91, 92, when I first started in 91 vignettes in 92. And yeah. And you know, the fun part is a place that I used to love to go with Jimmy Hart was in the Underground in London. You know, they have shops underground. And there was so many bootleggers there. Like, you know, they'd have some shops where they were selling illegal pictures and frames of wrestling, and I saw one that was absolutely so tremendous. It was like a big one, like, you know, maybe 2-3 feet by 4 feet. It was huge. And there was all the talent, but the great talent then, like, you know, Macho Man, Hulk, the Giant, you know, all the big superstars were on there, and the biggest two was me and Bret Hart in front of each other, like, you know, facing each other, and all the other ones were a little smaller in the back. And you know, I told Jimmy, I said, Jesus, I gotta bring this to show my kids. Like, you know, this is amazing. The Mountie, you know, in London, you know, being over like that. But I remember working with Randy Savage for his title in London. So the Mountie was over very strong in Europe, maybe because of the costume or something. But so I had some good times overseas in the UK.
Please.
Yep. You touched on a couple of people there, and I just wanted to talk about one man you mentioned there, Randy Savage. Any kind of guys I talked to from your era were kind of saying that he never really switched off his character. Did you have that experience with him?
Sure did. Sure did. Yeah. He was that was the case. You know, he and it's so funny because in 1978, I was traveling with him with Angelo Poffo, his daddy, and Dutch Mantel in Nashville, Tennessee. We were wrestling Nick Goulas in 1978, and he was Randy Poffo, and he was the nicest guy in the world, the down to earth guy in the world. And then when I saw him back in WWF, it was like I always come back to this story when I tell this story about him coming home after like a 25-day tour and being 3 days at home with Elizabeth, and he'd wake up the first morning that he was at home with Elizabeth, and she'd say, Randy, would you like for me to make you some eggs? And he'd go and say, oh yeah, and you know. he just forgot to turn it off there, but but he was a very moody guy also. Like he was one of the guys that he'd come in the dressing room one night and say, how you doing, Randy? Hey, how you doing? And then I'd see him the next night, but I hadn't seen him since. And then I'd say, how you doing, Randy? He'd say, fuck off, you know, like okay. Like, I guess today's a bad day, but he was very, very temperamental. Very, and but then he wasn't the only one. You know, we all know that the grocery store was open to everybody. You know, in those days, and you could a lot of heavy on the steroids, and so the moods were very temperamental. The very few guys that I could say that were always down to earth, Tito Santana, Rick Martel. You know, there was some guys that were down to earth, but most of the guys were very temperamental, or different moods, different times. A lot of the guys in those days, you know, it was known to I remember that's why I love Jimmy Hart so much, because Jimmy Hart was down to earth so much. And when we land overseas, especially overseas, I don't know why. It's maybe because the guys were away from their families, but it seemed like they got wilder. And we'd land in a country or something, and the first thing the guys would ask when we'd land is, you know, they'd be looking for us for strip joints and for drugstores, and for, you know, when Jimmy Hart and myself were looking for gyms, or for you know, or things that to go visit, like shops that we could go visit during the day. And it was like so it was those years where there was no limits to what the guys would, you know, the drinking and the pills, and it was like, it was so easy to get. It was almost like everybody had a connection in every town somewhere where they'd have I remember the guys just walking around with especially the Bulldogs were the worst. The Bulldogs, they Dynamite Kid, man, he was the wildest one I've ever seen. He'd come walk in the dressing room with a needle in his butt, and he'd be walking around from the boys like, oh, I'm gonna have a good fucking time tonight. You know, and he'd have a needle in his butt going around like that. And it was a pretty scary situation for a guy like me, you know. But anyway, all that to say that it was a wild time. I called it those days. I always, you know, people always looked at me and they said, you know, wow, you're so lucky to go around the world like this and that and traveling like that. And I was saying, like, if only you knew what kind of jungle we're in. Like, you know, it's a jungle. It's prehistoric men, you know, in suits. You know, that's what it was, to be honest with you. And if you weren't part of the clique, if you didn't show up in the bars that night till 2, 3 in the morning, then you were an outsider, you know. And so that would put heat on you automatically. I always wondered for many years why, you know, I had a lot of heat with a lot of guys in the dressing room, a lot, because I was different. I'm still different today, but not so bad. But I was different. Because and one of my differential was, you know, I there's no gray zone in my life. It's black or white. If I like someone, I like him. If I don't, I don't. But I'm not gonna say I like you if I don't, and vice versa. But when the guys were in the dressing room and they were getting their booking sheets, like, you know, we'd have like 3 weeks ahead of time our schedule, you know, to what towns we're going to and everything. And as soon as the guys would get a schedule where they're going to Canada, like, you know, they'd come up with, oh, that goddamn Canada, that shitty and that goddamn Montreal. And I was saying, hey, that goddamn United States not better either, like, I'd stick up for my, but I had heat automatically. But at the same time, I didn't understand, because at the time, the guys, they had to cross customs, so they couldn't bring their drugs, they couldn't bring their, all that. So that was a big major problem for them. And also there was a money deal. We were getting, if I was making $100, making a more even number there, if I was making $1,000 one night wrestling in United States, well, I'd bring that $1,000 to Montreal, and it would be $1,400, because the money exchange was so different. But vice versa, when the guys would come wrestle for $1,000 in Montreal, they'd go back home, and with the taxes and everything taken off, there'd be about $600 left out of their 1,000 because of the money exchange. So they hated Canada for that. So there's more reasons that I understood as we went along, that why they hated so much to come to Canada. And I took it personally. So that didn't make it easy on me. Let's put it that way, by sticking up for my home and sticking up for.
Speaking of polarizing individuals in terms of those that work with them, it's always interesting to get your take on your relationship with the Ultimate Warrior.
Not much to say, he was in his own world. He was a guy who had a great body, but didn't have much respect for a lot of guys. Like he, in a way where where he thought he was God's gift, and the push that he got also, he made a lot of people jealous. Because he came in and just boom, went right to the top, was treated. He wanted his own room. He wanted his own limo. He wanted, I must have been jealous a little bit myself too. I think everybody was jealous, because we all go in there. We put 30 years in the business, 20, 30 years. And then we try to make it to the top. And then one guy comes out of nowhere and boom, comes up, and he's got an attitude. It's like, it's not well taken by a lot of guys in the business. So because they had that expression where he didn't pay his dues, and so, but I didn't hang around with him. I didn't, to be honest with you, he wasn't my best friend, but at the same time, he never bothered me. So he did his thing. A lot of guys were like that in the WWF, where you didn't get along with everybody, but everybody pretty much respected everybody. Like, you don't have to like someone to and when we get in the ring and come around and work with some guys that we didn't personally like, we put all that aside and get in. Business is business. You get in the dressing room. Vince, what do you want? You want this? Okay. We sat down and we made the best out of the situation. But it was always more fun to work with guys that you had chemistry with. Like, the Hearts for us, was amazing. The Rockers for us was amazing. The Tito Santana, Coco Beware, and the Bushwhackers. I could go on and on about the guys that had good chemistry together. It was just fun. We'd go out there 20 minutes. I remember doing 1 hour matches with the Rockers, marathon matches, 1 hour. And then it was just like it was a 20-minute match. They were such great workers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. Holy mackerel. Raymond and I, we had so much fun with them. And so when you go out there and you go to the ring and you have chemistry and good talent and you like the person, it was fun those days. It was fun.
I know we're kind of coming up to the 1 hour we have scheduled now, so we're going to kick back to the wrestling school in a moment. But I just want to talk about when you went back to WWF for the tag team run in 1998 with Pierre. How did that come about? How did that conversation come about to get you back into the WWF?
Well, actually, when the Mounties put a stop to my gimmick, pretty much, I came back home, and then I started doing independent wrestling, and I was wrestling for Puerto Rico once in a while, and I was wrestling Abdullah in Puerto Rico, and in the first match of the evening was Carl Ouellet. He was a guy from Quebec, and I was walking the beach that day, and he came up to me, and he tapped on my shoulders. I didn't know him, and he started speaking French to me. He says, "Hey, bonjour, Jacques, ça va?" And I was saying, "Hey, you speak French?" Yeah. He says, and then he says, "I don't want to bother you too much." He said, "The only thing I want you to do is I'd like for you to come and and if you don't mind watching my match tonight, I'm on first, and just watching my match." I said, "Sure, I'll do that." A French Canadian threw another one, and when I saw him in the ring, I saw what he did. I said, "Hey, man, man, I need to have him as my partner." He's This guy takes bumps over the top rope on the cement floor. He's a great worker. And then he told me that he'd been trying to get in the business in WWE and stuff for 10 years, and nobody would listen to him. He never had a chance. So I took a liking into him. He made that clear, and that we had that he kind of liked me, and so I told him when I left Puerto Rico that night after his match, I said, give me a week, and I said, I'm going to talk to Vince. And then he says, no. I said, yeah. I said, I'll talk to Vince. I'm in good relationship with Vince. I said, I'll talk to him. So next thing you know, about a month later, I called him back. I said, I'm setting up a ring in my backyard. I said, if you want to come train with me, I said, we're going to come in as a tag team in WWF. He couldn't believe it. And then the first night we came in, we became tag team champions. The first night against the Steiners. First night. So that's how it went. And it was a great run. We were original. We took the time to set up a ring and work out 3 times a week in my backyard for 2-3 hours at a time, and inventing moves that hadn't been seen, and always using each other to do the moves. There was no individual moves. It was all like together. I used every move we did. It was tag team. I needed him to do my moves. He needed me, and that kind of brought us out of the lot. And he was so agile, and so I used his size, and I used everything to my advantage, and so it worked out tremendously. He's still going today. He's like the little bunny, the Energizer now. He's like he keeps on going.
He does some crazy things, doesn't he?
And so power to him. So I know I did the right thing for him, and he certainly deserved it. And I'm proud now today to say that he's one of the Quebecers that made it in the business.
Well, Jacques, we really appreciate your time. You certainly have such tremendous stories, such a tremendous career to this point. But once again, can you talk about the Wrestling Academy 2024 and where all the fans can keep up with developments?
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. It's starting on the 28th of September. You could go check. The date will be changed. It was the 24th of August. It was just changed today. So we'll be changing in the next few days. But it's going to start on the 28th of September. Go on wrestling-academy.ca to follow the whole thing. We're going to be having a lot of guest judges. It's going to be an amazing tournament this year. Whole Canada's talking about it. They're buzzing about it. It's amazing. I'm going to be meeting a couple of guys in a week and a half from now, because I was invited on the Chris Jericho Rock and Roll cruise, going out of Miami to Cozumel for 4 days, where it's a rock and wrestling show there for 4 days. So I've been honored to be chosen to go there. So I'll be meeting a lot of great.
Not jealous at all.
I'm sorry?
I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous at all, I swear.
So yeah, but it's fun. Yeah, I'm gonna go sign some autographs, go work a little bit, meet a few old buddies, and get some few judges for wrestling academies next year. Paul White is there. I know there's so many good talent. Jesus Christ, I'm thinking of Harley Davidson, not Harley Davidson, but Harley Cameron. I call her Harley Davidson, but it's Harley Cameron, and she's going to be there. And there's so many wrestlers. The Bushwhacker Lou's going to be there. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's going to be there. I saw the talent. There's about 30 talent that are going to be on that ship next week. So it's going to be fun for me to reminisce a little bit. I'm going to be signing autographs in the morning one day and watching wrestling in the evening. But apart from that, my girlfriend and I were going to go take a 4-day off. It's been a rough road for us in the last 3 months, because my girlfriend was she was caught up with breast cancer, and so she's been doing chemo for the last 3 months, and so now she's got the first quarter done. We have a year of chemo to do, so we have a 3.5 week release from the hospital there, from the treatment. So these 4 days are going to be fun to take her out and have to see some palm trees and see the sunshine again, and so it's all. I'm looking forward to this Chris Jericho cruise and all these good celebrity tournaments. I got the celebrity tournament this summer that I can't wait to go see all the stars of everywhere. The Comic-Con's coming. The Wrestling Academy is going to be huge. And I got a few other things that I can't talk about right now that are in the making. So hopefully that'll work out. Hopefully I'll have a good meeting with the production company this week, for the Wrestling Academy. And if not, then we'll keep seeing it on YouTube like we've been the last few years. But wrestling-academy.ca. please check it out and have fun. Just go check it out. It's just an absolutely amazing concept. It's the only one like that around the globe. And I want to thank my sponsors, Millennium Micro, which are just absolutely awesome. They're giving the $10,000 to one of them, and then we got the buses Menard, a group, and we got more sponsors coming in that pay the $10,000 to the wrestlers, and I think that's such an amazing thing. You know, when you got to think about these guys that usually make $100 a night, you know, in the small events, and they have a chance to make 10,000 plus the recognition. So check out wrestling-academy.ca. Thank you guys for having me on board today. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll cross paths in the next year.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you once again, Jacques, for your time. And I encourage all the fans to check out Wrestling Academy and keep on top of all the good stuff that's coming in that respect for 2024. Maurice?
Yeah, so I will have the links to all the information about the school below this video if people want to check it out. Keep an eye out. And thanks very much, Jack. It was an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you, Maurice. And I remember Maurice. You know, I could say, you know, Beauty and the Beast, but I could also say, what is special? You know, Maurice Vachon there. You don't know if you're Mad Dog, Maurice Vachon. Anyway, thank you, Jack, and thank you, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Well, fans, that's it for this special edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe and that notifications button, and you'll keep on top of all the great content we have coming in 2024. Until next time, thank you very much. Take care.